Goodbye, Marina. You won't have long to wait. Just until the clock on the bomb reads 15. Goodbye.
Oh, I thought he'd never leave. Are you all right, Marina? Don't worry, old girl. Soon have you untied. That's it, one more. There you go. What? Oh, the bomb! Right, yes. I will get on and defuse that, and you can fire up the randomiser and select this week's episode. I think I brought the old sonic screwdriver today. Here we go. Right, that's taken care of that. You know, when I took you on as an assistant, I thought we agreed that you were going to try not to get captured every other week. What are you smiling about? Oh, the randomiser's given us our very first Stingray episode today, has it? Which one have we got? Oh, really? Well, yeah, I know it's one of your favourites because you're in it, but it's definitely not one of mine. Well, here we go with Tom Thumb Tempest.
Stand by for action.
Oh, here we go. Yeah! Oh, this opening. It's even today, this is still a spectacular piece of work, this opening title sequence. Imagine how amazing it must have seemed in 1964 when this was first shown. You would have seen nothing like this before. On British or American television, I can't think of any opening title sequence of a show being produced around this time that looks even half as good as this. Even a quarter. This is spectacular. And actually, one of my favourite memories of this opening title sequence is being at Andacon 2014, sneaking into the viewing room to see the very first episode being shown in there. And obviously I've seen the first episode of Stingray, like you all have, dozens of times. But I'd never been to a viewing room in a convention before. I'd never sat in a room full of people watching the show. And when that opening title sequence started, and Commander Shaw went, "Stand by for action," and somebody went, "Woo!" It just summed up the whole thing. It was like there was so much love in that room for this show. And when it got to the end of the opening title sequence, everybody in that room applauded. It was like, we've sat through the opening title sequence. That's good enough for us. We don't even need an episode now because we've seen that brilliant opening, and it works every time. Even when it's attached to an episode that is this episode, in fact. I will say up front, this is not one of my favourites. It's quite embarrassing, really, when you say to people, "Oh yeah, you're a fan of the Jerry Anderson stuff." Can you imagine if you'd been telling somebody who knew nothing about any of these shows and they saw one of them on TV and it was this? You would be mortified. Now, here we are, as if anybody needed it spelled out for them. We're now in a dream. The Jerry Anderson shows really liked their dream episodes. I've always found them... I don't know, because on the one hand, it's rather like the clip show episodes. It's, in some sense, a waste of a story to have something that basically just doesn't, in the end, turns out not to have happened. On the other hand, it is a fun way to tell a different kind of story. And certainly in some cases, I think Lone-Handed 90 is a really good example of them just taking that format and just running with it in a completely different direction. This one kind of follows along the same lines, but I don't like this one. In Stingray, I think most of the other puppet shows had 1, 2 dream episodes at max. Stingray had, I think, 3 out of the 39, which is more than you'd really need.
Why is it the commander's going out of his way to make me look small?
Now, as the dialogue is hinting here, this is not only a dream episode, this is another of the Jerry Anderson favourites, the shrinking episode. It is another peculiar fascination that the earlier shows had. We had it in Supercar, we had it in Fireball, now we've got it in Stingray, and after this, with Thunderbirds and Scarlet and Joe 90, you think, okay, they've got that silliness out of their system, and then they do a whole series about shrinking somebody. I suppose the temptation would have been too much to resist to have these puppet characters interacting with the real world, and the only way to do that is to do a shrinking episode. It's also probably somewhat more cost effective to take these puppets and just film on a real set than having to build a puppet scale set specially for yet another story.
I know, Phones, but we are. We're in an aquarium. We're in an aquarium in a giant room.
I do remember reading a review of the Stingray DVD box set. I'm not sure what website it was on. I think it was a review of the Region 1 box set that said they were reviewing the series. They mentioned this episode in particular, and they said that if the image of a puppet in a submarine in an aquarium suddenly realising that he's a puppet in a submarine in an aquarium doesn't make you smile, then you have no soul. I think that's probably the best way to approach this episode. Don't take it even remotely seriously. I wouldn't go so far to say that it's clever enough to be a sort of meta commentary on the production of the show. That would have been fun, actually, to have the characters kind of walk out of their own environment into like a television studio where they are a TV series that's being filmed, similar to UFO's Mindbender. This, I can't actually remember off the top of my head who wrote this, but I would love to know how many blows they took to the head to make this episode a reality.
Yeah, Marina. I seem to remember that name, too.
The rocket emplacement on Balin Island. You remember. Nucella was the guy who captured us.
That's it, Phones. We just escaped with our lives.
I do like this idea that all the people who are going to be sitting around this conference table are previous enemies of the Stingray crew. I think that's a lovely touch. It's a shame, really, that none of them actually show up, because it was very rare that any of these, that this show in particular had much of a sense of continuity. Obviously, we had Titan as the main villain. Towards the end, we had a couple of what were their names? Noctis and Gruber were in a couple of episodes, but they didn't really amount to much. And it's great that all of these enemies that are on this table are the ones that you would consider the more memorable one-off villains. Gadus, Nucella, was Maritimus on the table? Has anyone ever had a dream like this? My dreams tend to be very, very boring. I've never had one as interesting as this. It's more like I dream about getting the bus, or I dream about going to work. And here we have, reality has just cracked. We now have an aquamphibian in a tuxedo, making sure that a dining table has all the cutlery. Oh, that is so cute! The back of the tux is split so that the fins on his spine can show through. That is such a nice touch. Yeah, that part of it, that part of this show, this episode is hugely entertaining. Seeing the Aquamphibians and X20 in their tuxes, and their ultimate evil plan for this episode is just put on a dinner party. That's it. You could almost get rid of the Stingray crew entirely in that case. I would happily watch just that episode. And that would be a nice framework for a flashback episode, I think. Just to have these guys sitting around reminiscing about their defeats by the Stingray crew.
You're in a giant room having dinner with Titan, with an aquamphibian as a butler and stingrays in an aquarium. Have a good time. Will you get that guy, Giants?
When it's all summed up in that kind of way, it does, as an adult watching this, it does help carry you through the fact that this is not very good, because it's not meant to be anything spectacular. It is just a piece of fluff. well-produced fluff. Yeah, this is just turn your brain off time. Because if you don't turn your brain off, then the sight of X20 and an aquamphibian in tuxedos, oh my god, they have the bow ties. Oh, yeah, this is one element of Stingray that I don't think gets as much attention or affection as it should, is the aquamphibians. They are...
Who told you to set fish knives and forks? You thought.
They are just lovely henchmen. Obviously they get mostly blown up in their terror fish, but they can alternate between genuinely sinister. There is something about the bulging eyes, the teeth, the covered in spikes. It's if you met one for real, it wouldn't be a very pleasant experience. But equally, they are so stupid. And in a setting like this, where they are, this one aquamphibian is just trying to set the table, and the Stingray crew are ruining it for him. And he only has the one job, and he is doing it well. But the Stingray crew have just made his life hell. He probably transferred to the Titanica catering department specifically so that he didn't have to face the Stingray crew in combat and get blown up, and now here they are, ruining his arrangement of knives and forks. Although actually, going back to the placement of the table, those flowers take up like the entire table. Nobody would ever be able to have any food on that table because the... Look at that! That is just the whole table. You couldn't... Right, Titan cannot see his guests because of the size of those plants. Really, chaps, we need to rethink this whole thing. It's just not working.
The matches. Put your foot on them, Phones. I'll tear one.
He said that with far too much relish. It's like, fire, my friend. You've heard so many horror stories over the years about the special effects department's use of fire and how they were prone to like setting the roof on fire with massive explosions. I'm wondering how...
We'll never get in, Stingray. It's too small.
We got out of...
How fires on the puppet stage would have been managed. Obviously, there would have been somebody there with an extinguisher to make sure that this didn't get out of hand. But this, having a puppet scale set on fire with the puppets cruising over it on their monocopters... I mean, all it would have taken was for one of those wires to catch, and Troy or Marina would have come to a very fiery end. Much like our late lamented Dr. Venus.
Oh, we're back to normal size.
Maybe. We're still
No, you're not. You're smaller than you were just a few seconds ago.
I'm trying to figure a way out.
I can't apply logic to this. Logic is taking a holiday.
Troy, the water's heating up.
And something interesting about the Jerry Anderson Dream episodes is 9 times out of 10, the dreams always ended with everybody dying, which I always found quite strange. Captain Scarlet, everybody died. In all 3 Stingray Dream episodes, Troy and Phones die. Joe 90, Lone-Handed 90. Joe is at the controls of a train when that crashes. And it was all a dream. And we end on a shot of Marina smiling, and I do like the Marina smiling puppet. Well, that was Tom Thumb Tempest. It was good to get that out of the way, I think, because this is probably one of my least favourite Stingray episodes, along with maybe the other 2 Dream episodes as well, Raptures of the Deep and The Cool Caveman. The fact that they were able to tell a story that they wouldn't have normally been able to do, the fact that it is so weird and out there, doesn't kind of rescue it from the fact that it's just a huge pile of so what, really, like most of these Dream episodes are. Captain Scarlet did the Dream episode kind of well because the stakes were so high, the drama was so high. Joe 90 did a Dream episode where they actually learnt something that contributed to the series at the end of the story. This, you just watch it and you think, I wish I could have been watching, Titan and Terrorfish and undersea battles and interesting problems. This was just kind of... If I could go back and just replace these dream episodes with, like, proper episodes, that would be lovely. As it is, not one of my favourites. Happy that we're past this one now.